Bubba built it.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning in and watching with us. It's really an honor and a privilege. We really appreciate it. I want to give you a quick update on Generalissimo and the progress that has been made. As we left off the last video, we were talking about the rear quarter panels, and as you can see, some progress has been made. We were discussing how this rear quarter is going to attach, and of course it's going to be wider, much wider,
Much
quite a bit
wider.
wider
Yeah, right.
than the stock. As you can see, this is,
We talked about that in the last
yeah,
video, actually. I think the world's widest Daytona.
world's widest
I don't know.
Daytona. It's official.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, and what we're talking about is how this goes on. And so, Mike, take us away here. What are we doing?
Okay, so we like we like playing with the proportions of a car. Of course, when you do that, you got to be careful because you can easily go off the rails and make something look stupid, which we try not to do. But if you respect the original lines when you're widening something, then you're going to generally end up something that's it's just like you see the clip of the actor where he's like, "Hi, David," where he's like bulked up for, Hugh Jackman bulked up for the Wolverine role or whatever. That's kind of what we're trying to do with these original body lines. We want to jack them up and make them look more muscular, make them look better, and so we like to use original parts to do that. And I've seen a lot of renderings of wide body Daytonas and Chargers where they just put a big box on the side of it, and hey, that's all right, and that's cool and all, and that does do something to the proportions. But a lot of the original lines are ruined. When you look at this car, just this line right here, how first of all you got a beautiful fall here. This comes back and it rises slightly, then it falls and has a slight little uptick at the end, and then there's this subtle flare here. And we don't want to lose all that. You throw a big box flare on the outside of this thing, and you lose all the subtlety of that. So to make this work, we took an original quarter, and as you can see it right over there, we talked about this last time, and we modified it. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but right here you can see where we cut a notch right here, and then this was an original body line, but then just took and bent that in at that original body line. So the whole thing, so it is kind of a box flare, but it's a box flare with style. It's a box flare with shape. It's a box flare that still maintains that original look. But to do that, then you've got to attach it, right? And we could have just welded it on, and that would have been probably easier to just weld that on. But we want to have this sort of raw race car look because we love the idea of that. And so this is what we did on this car. We pop riveted this original modified quarter on top of the other quarter. And so going back to this one right here, of course, now also since last time, you can see here that I have put the old pieces back. On the Daytona, we didn't do that because it was supposed to be a race car, and it really we went full race car. You should never go full race car.
Never go full race car if you're going to take it on the street.
Right. So this is going to be a street car. It literally has some form of climate control. So we want it to be enclosed.
Somewhat sealed.
Yeah. So all these old pieces went back on here. But then the other thing that we didn't talk about, or that we're about to talk about here, is these tabs. So these are really simple to make. You just take sheet metal and you cut it to a tab, and you just weld it on. And if you see here, we welded it at the same slope basically as the original bodywork here. And then when you go to put the quarter back on, then everything follows these same beautiful lines where this fall here comes into this, and it continues its transition, and then the flare goes back. And then let's talk about this down here. So whenever you're doing this kind of thing, you're going to have to reinforce and add a place for it to
come back and attach.
To be attached. So this is the lower part. As you can see, it's very solid. This is also this is the outer attachment point here. So we've got these lower attachment points. We have the tabs. I'm gonna eventually, I haven't done it yet, I'm gonna weld a pickup tab here out of sheet metal. and then that'll complete the attachment of the quarter. So anyway, the elephant in the room that we haven't talked about is this beautiful piece of aeronautics. And I call it aeronautics because that's exactly what it was. As you all probably already know, the story, in 1969, the Daytona was the first wing car. It wasn't the first Aero car. I think that Ford had already been playing with narrowing the bumpers and making the flush grille maybe in '68. I can't remember if it was '68 or '69.
When did the Talladega hit?
That's what I'm saying.
That was the first one.
That's the Talladega. And look, and I might be wrong. It might be the same time as the Daytona. Maybe they all sort of started this. I cannot remember if it's '68 for the Ford or if the Ford came in '69 as well. But I know it was '68, '69 when this started occurring. Perhaps before that, you could argue that Ford was already playing with fastback roof lines on the Galaxy. But it was the Torino. I'm not a huge NASCAR buff, and so you guys will correct me if I'm wrong here. But anyway, I know that there was some fastback roof lines that were played with, but the first actual wing car was 1969 Dodge Daytona, and here it is. And this wing right here, now I've had some confusion over this. We did not write "Made in Texas" on this, but the people who made it wrote that on there. That our friends at Janik are where we got these pieces from, and they are in Texas.
Yeah.
And you know what they say, when the crap goes down, we might end up having to go to Texas, right? So I don't know about all that, but I'm glad they're there. So anyway, this piece right here, and I've got some video of, there's a fair amount of work, even getting it to this point, and I've got video on that. But for instance, this is not just fiberglass. This is fiberglass, but inside here is a lot of structure. I believe they've got either steel or aluminum. I'm pretty sure it's steel that goes up through here because the studs are steel and they're welded, and there's 4 studs that stick down per the original. And that's the other thing, is that this piece, even though the originals were cast aluminum, this piece right here is a very faithful reproduction of the aluminum, not just in form but in function. So whereas it is fiberglass, they've got reinforcement, metal reinforcement. This up here is solid aluminum, and I had to drill that out for this right here. We actually didn't buy this from them recently. We bought this from Janik years ago for the Scraptona, this horizontal here. So we already had the horizontal. The reason we had an extra horizontal for a Daytona laying around is because when we built the Scraptona, we thought about doing a double fin on it, because we weren't worried about trunk lids or anything like that. So we thought that'd be cool to have
no trunk lid.
Right. But as you look here, this actually comes around and takes up some of this space. And so this aileron here is actually about 1.5 inches wider than the original, which worked out great for us because, as you can see here, we had extra room for this width. So this is slightly wider than the original. But this is all very functional. I haven't got this tightened, but you can see how this is adjustable and you tighten it. And so all this is very functional. This also has a metal steel reinforcement going through it, and it's threaded to accept the bolt. So this is very high quality. I've seen people sitting on these in videos. I'm not going to do that. I don't think Lee wants to do that. I don't know if they were me size. I'm 280 pounds sitting on it, but they are supposed to be functional to that degree. With that being said, now, unfortunately, I did cover this up before you're able to see it, but there is a lot of reinforcement inside here
to tie it into
that we did to tie it directly to the frame. And as you can see, we've got something very solid here.
Let me back up so you can see the whole car.
I mean, this
there
is,
it goes.
I mean, you can see it. The car is moving, the wing is not, and that's what you want. But to do that, what we did is we put a piece of plate steel in here, and it had an angle on it, and that was welded in place to the chassis, and then struts. We welded struts that went down, tied it into the bottom here, and so this is very secure. And if you don't do that, you're going to end up with something that someone leans on it, and the thing's like, you can see the whole thing flex, but you don't want that. Right. Not only that, but this is a functional piece, and it will generate hundreds of pounds of downforce. So I say hundreds, at least 200 probably. So anyway, it has to be reinforced. And with that in mind, I guess we could open the trunk, and I don't think you're going to be able to see much.
Before we start showing them the trunk, I think we should show them the unboxing of all this cool stuff here.
Yeah, once again, I mean, these guys are top shelf. They're second to none. If you want reproductions, The only thing better is to find original pieces, which, I mean, I think an aluminum original wing by itself. Now, look, this is another thing that you might not be educated to. And I say that because we're car guys, and we didn't know this before we built Scraptona. But I saw a Superbird, I saw a Daytona. I thought they were basically the same car.
No,
But they're not at all. Matter of
Very
fact,
different.
every piece is different. There's not one piece that they share in common. You think that they're the same car because they have the exact same number of pieces. Well, not, they have the same type of pieces. They have the same look, but they are 100% different.
Yeah, the wing is
So
completely and totally different.
so when you talk about a Daytona, it's a much, much more rare vehicle than a Superbird. The Daytona was the first one. My understanding was they made 500 of them only. And then the Superbird came out a year later in 1970, and they made 2,500 or so of those. So they're like 5 times less rare than the Daytona, but they're both very rare. But anyway, so if this was an original Daytona wing, it'd probably be 12,000, 15,000. I might even be way off on that as far as too low. But they're a cast aluminum piece, and they are made out of unobtainium. That means you can't find one unless if you're a mere mortal, you can't. So anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that, except to say, yeah, the only other way to get it, except for going through Janik, is to either do, and then on the nose pieces, this is another thing you might not know. If you're like me, we assumed that these were made out of fiberglass, the noses from the factory, because in 1969, fiberglass was a thing. I mean, they've been making
Corvettes, yeah,
for a while. Yeah, I mean, so why wouldn't they make the nose out of fiberglass? But they didn't. They were fabricated out of steel. And so once again, a steel Daytona nose, I mean, $10,000. I mean, they're crazy.
And can you imagine it not being attached to a car?
Right. Now, there are some people that and I'm not versed on this, but there are some people who are fabricating steel noses for Superbirds and Daytonas, but they're also uber expensive. So anyway, fiberglass, way to go. And these guys have, excuse me, the best quality of anybody out there. There's just nobody. And not only that, but they're just good folks. They're just nice folks. I think I've got a clip. I mean, they literally had a handwritten note in the box, and it's just, I don't know. I love that kind of thing. It kind of reminds me of us. I think we already have the clip of them. And then they have a bunch of empty water bottles that they use in a trash bag for the buffer of the packing.
Yeah.
And it's just cool stuff like that. It's just kind of how we like to do things. Waste not, want not kind of thing. So anyway, the wing and the nose is going to be something we'll show you in the next video as far as putting it on. But now again, I've just got a wire here, but this is another thing. Look at this.
Ooh, do it again.
So, and also I love the idea that I'm not going to, well, even that doesn't catch. Right.
That's awesome.
So no, it works. It fits. Lee said something about us putting the tail lights back in here. I didn't do that yet, but here they are. And we're going to have to do a little bit of adjustment on these as far as where all this came together to make it line up perfectly with that light bar. But this is where it goes, the tail light. Let's see here. Hold your mouth just right. All right, and I'm just going to put one of these in. All right, and then again, I think we talked about this in the last video, but man, it's so nice to have a functional trunk. And you know, when we were working out how to do this, as you can see right here, there is a world of difference between this area here and this area here. So what we did was we took the original underpinning here and we had to shorten and abbreviate it because the trunk's not nearly as long. Excuse me. And then weld the skin to this. And then we had this filler panel that we fabricated to make the skin. And this is another thing. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but this trunk lid is the worst piece of sheet metal I've ever used on a car. I mean, it was so rusted out that, I mean, there was a giant hole right here. There was nothing right here on this whole corner. It was all gone. So we put this all back together. And both these corners, as you can see, have been totally rebuilt from nothing. And that's just the skin. The understructure was even worse. But anyway, now this right here, oh, there it goes. Let's see that. But so this is the Challenger understructure, and all this matches up with this. So we have a trunk that opens. You have these really cool double articulated hinges, I only had to use one strut because we're a lot lighter than we used to be, so I didn't use 2 struts. I just used the 1 strut. But what a great functional piece. And the opener pad will work. This is the original latch. All this stuff's going to be original to the car. Right now I'm using a wire just because we're not wired out. We don't have a battery hooked up. But anyway, as you can see, now that's still catching on that tail. That's what I'm saying. We have to do a little bit of adjustment on that.
Adjusting. No big deal.
But anyway, then look in here. We need some light.
I think I'm good. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay. So you can see here, this is a lot of factory structure that we just modified. So again, the problem with a lot of body swaps, especially a modern chassis, is they are much taller than an old school car, and so we literally had to take like 8 inches of vertical chassis out of this to make it look right. But all this is cut down. All this was moved out and down. All this was a lot higher on the car before.
Yeah,
but as you can see,
was much higher.
The idea is, man, why throw all this away? This is out in the scrap bin, and we keep going out there and saying, hey, this is still good. Hey, this is still good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. Instead of having to rebuild all this stuff, you got a lot of good stuff that you can take off the car and you can reuse it. You just put it somewhere else. So anyway, we have a fairly small trunk opening here, but still very functional. We have all the original depth, and we've got so you can see, like, I think he already showed you, but this is where some of that reinforcement was welded in. Some of that steel, but it's behind all that. But
yeah.
Anyway, so
the other thing we wanted to talk about is this, the rear quarter. I think we wanted to end with the video on putting this rear quarter back on, just so you could see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, we were talking last time about this bumper cove that's original to the Charger. How he had deleted it on that side.
Yeah, you can come over here and see it actually if you want to just show them that. So this was basically vertical and notched in, and the bumper cove, that is the original line of the bumper cove right there.
Yep.
So I used that, I left that, and then I just cut it here on the inside where it comes back out, cut that off, and then we just notched this and made this run into it. And man, look at how this follows the profile of the wing. It's so nice. It makes it this really nice cam back appearance, and really just does what we wanted it to do as far as the appearance and the look.
So let's throw this recorder on.
Yeah, let's do that. Once again, you can see from this angle how dramatically that has been in compared to what it was. If you look at this body line right here, you can see that that's about what it was like before we dramatically made it. Okay, you got to put yours there.
Hold on.
All right, now you hold on to it for a second. Let me get this one in. We're just using our tried and true Clecos. Now, this might take me a second, or it might be. This is the one I used. Hold on. I'm just going to see where the hole. There's the hole. There it goes. What do we do with that other Cleco? Oh, it must have fallen in. Okay, hold on. Just hold what you got there. Now, if you're eagle-eyed viewer, you're going to see that, hey, you guys haven't said anything about the front. Well, that's going to be for the next video. So anyway, if you saw some of the edge of that front fender, it's really turning out great.
I don't know. We might give them a little sneak peek here in just a second.
Okay, well, so the front end is coming together really well. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but
yeah, this video is about the rear.
Yeah,
the back side.
Right.
Check it out, and then we'll get this complete rear shot here, so you can get the idea of how wide this thing is. Oh man. Oh wow.
Yeah. Now, if we measure, let's see. You know what? I think the front is actually going to be just slightly wider because the turning of the wheels. So we might have to adjust that 84-inch that we talked about in our last video.
It might be even wider.
It might be even wider.
All right. Well, I'm going to say that does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
You went full race car. Never go full race car.